Hey, good morning, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mic with me, Mike Avery, here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. Here to record this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. I was a little bit distracted, and Jonathan, you'll get a kick out of this. I was a little bit distracted because I just had a picture sent to me of my, what would you call him, great niece and nephew, Jonathan, outside Trinity for their first day of preschool. How cool is that? Eli, I just saw your note on the YouTube channel. Thank you for that. I'll follow up on that. And you say it wasn't just hunting and archery programs that got defunded. I know. Boater safety too. Wow. Cliff, good morning. You know what else, Eli? Trap shooting. Some of these schools that have trap shooting, like my grandson's high school, if it stays the way it is, they'll have to choose between trap shooting and taking their federal funds. Well, I think we all know what they're going to choose. Hey, Tim, good morning, buddy. How are you? Mike, that was a great picture of the mountain lion the other day. Hello, Ray. Good morning. Davina, good morning. No, I didn't get it. I looked at it a couple times. Jim. Didn't get around to it yet. Been kind of busy. Good morning, Ed. How are you? Mike, always a pleasure. Eric, good morning. How are you? Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer. Johnny is busy. Johnny, did you hear the story about Ross and that big bear he shot and how many hours he sat in the blind in the stand waiting for that thing? I think he had 3 15-hour days and a 13-hour day waiting for that monster to come in. Jim, good morning. How are you? All right, Craig, I look forward to it. Martin, good morning. How are you? My name is Mike Avery. I'm here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio to record this week's show. I'll tell you who's coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Few things to talk about. Number one, as I look out the window here at the studio right now, it's dark. It's not quite raining yet. It's threatening rain, and it's been raining all around us. Joy, good morning. How are you? There you are, Joy. Jason checking in from the Ford Dearborn truck plant where they're making the Lightnings as well. Robert, good morning. I used to think I wanted an electric truck. I don't think so anymore. Dandy of a bear, and he put his time in here. And Brent, good morning. Wonderful to see you and Tracy. I think I told you that. And the kids. And your nieces, right? But anyway, that was very, very nice. Very nice. Anyway, it's threatening rain all around us. I'm hoping we got some rain at our lease property because we did put in some food plots. Correct, nieces. Okay. Steve checking in from Marquette. How are things in the Yoop this morning, Steve? I know how things are in the Yoop. Things are always good in the Yoop, aren't they? Hey, Sam. How did your weekend go there at, help me out, the store you were at? It's a big store. No, Johnny didn't get a bear. We're congratulating our mutual friend Ross Elliott on getting a bear. That big store in the Thumb. Hey, Nick, good morning. Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats, michiganbrand.net, michiganbrand.net. The guys are still talking about how much fun they had on last week's Wednesday Night Live. Well, thank you, Nick. If you didn't get a chance to see our Wednesday Night Live, you can go to the YouTube channel or the Facebook page, and you can see the video there. We had a great time. Nick's a great guy. Beautiful truck, but no sense buying one. Exactly. Yeah, I think, that's a topic for another show, isn't it? Jim, it did make a difference. Here, Jim, here's an interesting story about this. I posted video of us putting in food plots on Monday, us being my son, James, and grandson, Addison. Now, honestly, I was just there mostly for moral support. James did most of the work. And Jim being a former law enforcement officer, you're going to appreciate this. And me being a former farm kid, I had something happen that actually scared the hell out of me. When I was growing up on a farm, we didn't have tractors with cabs, and they didn't have these roll bars, and they didn't have these steel cages. And it was not uncommon for farming accidents, for tractor accidents, for people to roll one over or tip one over, and then they get trapped or crushed or pinned underneath the tractor. In fact, I lost a classmate in high school to that. He was driving a tractor down a dirt road. He wasn't paying attention. He got too far off to the side. He dipped the right tire in the ditch, and he flipped the tractor over, and he didn't survive it. And I will tell this story in depth in the first segment of the radio show. The short version is my granddaughter Addison was driving this tractor with that cultivator behind it in a field with about 3-foot high ferns. We hadn't made this clearing into a food plot before. James and I were walking the food plot, or soon to be food plot, and we're picking up branches and limbs and we're clearing it out. We got our back to the whole situation. My granddaughter Addison is driving the tractor. We hear her yell, turn around, and the tractor has rolled over. Not on its top, but on its side. And it was terrifying because I didn't know at the time if she was trapped in there, if her leg was crushed in there, if she was getting burned by exhaust. I didn't know if she was hurt or whatever. And it was terrifying. Thankfully, and I didn't even know tractors had seatbelts. For whatever reason, it was God is the reason. She put that seatbelt on. She was driving along in those ferns. She couldn't see the hole. She dropped the front wheel of the tractor into this hole, and she tipped the tractor over. She wasn't hurt. But my mind is flashing back to when I'm a kid in these farm accidents with people rolling tractors over. James and I see this. We run over to her, ask her, are you okay? Are you okay? And at this point, she's kind of in shock and she's scared. I think she's scared because she rolled the tractor, so she thinks she did something wrong, and she's scared because it was an accident. So she's okay. She's okay. She was able to get off the tractor. James got in there, turned it off so this cultivator's not spinning back there. Then we had to figure out how to get this tractor righted back up on its side because it's up against the woods at this point. James said, have you got a tow strap in your truck? And I did. So he came up with the idea, okay, we'll put a tow strap around the tractor. We'll loop it around a tree that's on the edge of the food plot. I'll hook it to my truck, and we'll try to pull it that way and get it righted back the right way up. Ben's Great Outdoors was the store. Good morning, Tommy. I'll pick up the story here in a minute. Ed picked up some killer food plot seed the other day. They're hammering the bear in Canada. They are. Oh, gotcha, Mike. Rob checking in from White River. Good morning, Brian. All right, Johnny, we'll see you. Ton of people, a bunch of good deals, hoping to be at Jay's for their anniversary sale. Hey, good morning, Johnny. It was great to have you guys. I'm over. Yeah, I'm glad Eddie's okay as well. Jerry checking in from the Adirondacks. Ed says we never wear a seatbelt. I never would have thought of it. First thing she did was she gets in the thing. She figures, okay, she's driving. She puts her seatbelt on. And the 2 things saved her from being hurt. 3 things saved her from being hurt. In my mind, I'm convinced God was watching over us and protected us. I have no doubt about that. She had her seatbelt on, so when the tractor rolled, she stayed in the seat and didn't fall out and take the risk of getting caught underneath the tractor as it rolled. And the third thing is, this tractor, and it was a rental tractor, it had a steel like a cage with a roof over the top of it. But this steel cage, when it rolled, stopped it from going all the way over. Mike says, glad she's okay. Yeah, thank God she's okay. Yeah. Good morning, Jim. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Davina. Good morning, David. Amen there, brother. September 15th, opening day of Bowen, Missouri, probably be 95 degrees. Good morning, Jake. How are you? But it was very scary. Very scary. It could have been so much worse. And here's the thing of it is, I blame me and James for what happened. The first food plot we worked up, it was a plot that we had last year, and we knew that it was flat. This one that we were going into, we hadn't done it before. Now, what we should have done, 2020 hindsight, right? And this is such common sense. And I know this, and James knows this. We just got distracted by starting by picking up logs and stuff and clearing it. The first thing we should have done, and we know this, the first thing we should have done is walked that food plot or that clearing, soon to be food plot, to check it for things like that, rocks or holes. Had we done that, we could have marked it and told her to avoid that. Scott says, terrifying to say the least. I'm sure it was, Scott. And she's my granddaughter. She's my only granddaughter. So to hear her yell and to look back and see the thing tipped over, it was terrifying. I watched my dad flip a tractor when I was little. He escaped with a broken arm. So see, you have the same frame of reference I do, Scott. Tractor accidents, when you grow up on a farm and surrounded by tractors, they're not uncommon. And the accidents are usually flipping them over. Eli said he hit a woodchuck hole on a tractor once. That's scary. But again, God is watching over us, and it turned out okay. I think this is a Kubota. Good morning, Mike. Not even sure our Kubota has a seatbelt. I will certainly check next time we use it. Great experience to share with. And that's why I'm sharing it, Kevin. That's why I'm sharing it, because everything turned out okay. It could have been very bad, but some things worked together to protect us. So I like sharing stories like this so people can learn. Wear a seatbelt on a tractor. I never would have thought of that before. Get one with a, if you can, get one with a roll cage on it. And look for potential problems before you send your granddaughter out there in a tractor. I will tell you this. I haven't sat on a tractor in about 40 years. I mean, after this happened, we got it uprighted. Everything was fine. Addison needed a little break. I said, here, you want me to jump on that for a while, Addie? She said, yeah. And it was kind of fun to be back on a tractor again. But every time I hit a little rise or a little knoll, I'm like, all right, I'll move on. Good morning, Jerry. How are things in Algonac? Brandon says Lake St. Clair fishing is hot. Smallmouth. Muskie. Lake St. Clair is always hot. Hunter Joe, 2 more food plots to plant for a grand total of about 30 plots planted in the last 3 weeks. Scott of Linwood Taxidermy says, unfortunately, very common, and most can be prevented with some extra safety measures, but we're human and often we don't think it's going to happen. That's exactly right. Good morning, Randy. Good morning. Hey, Brother Joey, how you doing, buddy? I wish you were going to hunt with us again this year, Joey. We're going to be back there, but I will be thinking about you. Joey, did you hear about the changes at Angler Quest? Andy, fellow graybeard. I'm glad we're all okay. I am too, Andy. I appreciate you saying that. So, okay. So this leads into another situation, this being Addison's tractor incident. Lance Valentine had a situation on Saginaw Bay with his Angler Quest. He had an accident. I will save the details to the show. But again, this between Lance's situation and Addison's situation, it got me thinking that I think some of the theme of this week's show is going to be when we are outdoors, we are excited. Hey, John, let me get to yours in just a second here. We are so excited, and sometimes we let our guard down, whether it's in the water or in the woods or in the field, but we can't. Because when things go south on the water, when things go south out in the woods, they go south in a hurry. Let me see what John Borkovich is saying here. John, a good friend of mine. John, law enforcement guy his entire life, longtime game warden. Glad you guys are safe. I have a second book out, Nature 911, in which I lead the readers through many outdoor adventures and encourage more people to enjoy nature and activities like hunting and fishing. And the book emphasizes the need to care for nature, then follows my path into the job as a conservation officer, protecting the very outdoor world, which we love so much. I will look forward to that, John. Speaking of this outdoor world, and I don't want to get too far off base. I don't want to get too theoretical or esoteric or anything, but the more I look around, the more I am convinced that, again, and I wouldn't say this on the radio show because it's going to come across as too preachy. I believe that we are on the verge of being at war in this country. And by war, I don't mean, what I mean is good versus evil. If you go to Ted Nugent's, and I don't know what you think about Nugent, but he's been putting some interesting stuff out there right now where he says he believes that the government is in the hands of Satan right now. And I know that's a bit much, right? I guess my point is, I wonder, with the assault on hunting and fishing and John Borkovich's way of life that he's talking about, from things like taking away funding for hunter safety education to trying to push this gender neutrality crap on us, how long are good people going to sit back and be quiet and let this happen? What is the tipping point, I guess, is my question. Anyway, Mike, good morning. They're tearing up your turnips. Good morning, Bruce. David says he flipped a John Deere 70 with a hand clutch off a wooden bridge and a deep draining ditch when he was 18. See? These tractor accidents. And that's what I'm thinking. When I hear a yell and I turn around and see it, my granddaughter tipped over in a tractor, that's my frame of reference. This is what's coming back to me. Good morning, Jerry. How are you? Good morning, John. Your head needs to be on a swivel in the outdoors. John Sullivan of Lure Lipstick, lurelipstick.com. How did the championship go up in the Sioux, John, for the Michigan Walleye Tour? Jerry says he's thinking the same. John says absolutely they are. Mike says, has the new deer hunting digest been published yet? It's online. John says we are at the tipping point. Robert, how are things in the Eastern UP? Tim Bin says he had his tipping point and he moved up north to get away from it. It went great. I'm glad to hear that, John. Oh, so here's who's coming. Oh, before I run out of time, if you're looking for broadheads for the upcoming season, I really like Michigan-made, family-based companies. G5 and Rec are my two go-tos. G5 made in out in toward the thumb, Memphis, Michigan, and Rec in Frankenmuth. If you want to try Rec broadheads, and that's what I've been shooting lately, I've been shooting the FX4, in fact. If you go to their website, recbroadheads.com, I think it is. recbroadheads.com, and rec is R-E-K, recbroadheads.com, and use the promo code Avery15. You can save 15% on your order. Okay, here's who's coming up on this week's show because I got to hurry. Lance Valentine talks about his accident, his incident on Saginaw Bay. I'll leave him to tell the details. Then Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News previewing the big outdoor weekend coming up shortly. In hour number 2, Brian Mastenbrook talks about the Michigan elk herd and the early season hunt. It actually starts next week. Joe Robinson from the DNR talking about waterfowl hunting. This week's Ask Avery segment. How do you get a hunter safety certificate if you took your hunter safety class in like 1972? I'll show you how to do it. Then in hour number 3, Matt Taggett talking about Rec broadheads. How do you break into that very competitive business? And, of course, wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Miner as well. How many seconds, John?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. All right, in about 25 seconds here, I'm going to change my focus from what I'm doing. I will not be able to interact with you or answer your questions because I'll be talking to the radio audience. I'll be switching from this mic to this mic. Well, how are you going to be elk hunting if you can't draw a bow, Scott? Blast off. How are you going to do that, Scott? Rib is healing, but still can't draw a bow. Be elk hunting in 3 weeks. You as well, Brent. All right, David. All right, Tim. I will be back here tonight at 7 o'clock for another. You want to bring that monitor up, John? Feel free. There we go. All traditional. I'm telling you, Joey, I love the recurve. I love hunting with a recurve. I just can't commit to it anymore. All right, my friends, have a great day. I will see you tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live. Until then, I hope it rains on your food plots. Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And glad to have you along with us once again as we continue our adventure into the world of the outdoor lifestyle, outdoor passions, outdoor I don't know, hunting, fishing, shooting, and trapping. But what is it? They are more than hobbies, right? Our hunting and fishing passions, our passion for the outdoors is more than a hobby. It is indeed a passion, but is it a lifestyle? I think it's a lifestyle. I think it's a passion. I think it's part of our history and tradition. And that's why I feel so blessed every week to be here at this microphone in this studio for 3 hours talking about it. Because I think our way of life needs all the promotion and all the encouragement that we can get these days. Because there is no doubt that this way of life is under attack, whether blatantly by the anti-hunters or more of a concealed threat, a veiled threat. It's not a veiled threat, by such things as cutting off funding for hunter education classes, threatening our schools that have trap shooting teams, that if you continue to have a trap shooting team, you will lose your federal funding. Well, public schools faced with that option have only one choice. I don't know. We were having a discussion during our Behind the Mic segment before I started to record the show. And I would encourage you, if you are into such things, live streams and such, that you would join me every Wednesday morning at 8:45 for a live look behind the scenes from the Outdoor Magazine radio show, and every Wednesday night at 7 for our Wednesday Night live streams. Last week, we were at the Michigan brand plant in Bay City. Nick Grillo was my tour guide. He showed us how they make those very tasty Mike Avery hunter sticks. Just remember, for every bag of Mike Avery hunter sticks that you buy, an angel gets its wings. No, I can't say that. I guess that's a little that's a little much. I can't say that. I have not been fishing again this last week, and I am jonesing to get out there bad, but it's just not going to happen for a while. The big wedding coming up next weekend. My daughter Shelby getting married down in Detroit. Looking forward to that. But my fishing activities have been kind of curtailed a little bit. I did have a chance to get out this last week and do some outdoor-related activities, though. Food plots. My son James and grandson Addison and I went out to some leased property that we have. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Pam. We appreciate access to your beautiful piece of heaven. And since you can't bait anymore, and the more I think about this and the more I see it, I'm not convinced, and I'm no biologist, but I am not convinced that baiting is a real big factor in the spread of CWD. That's just based on what I see anecdotally. And again, I'm no expert. I'm no biologist. I will certainly go along with what the DNR biologists say, the experts. I just feel like the trade-off here, if you would allow people to bait in the Lower Peninsula in limited quantities, I think you would allow people to harvest more deer, especially during archery season. You would allow people to position deer so they can get a better shot. But that's just me. But since we can't bait, what are the options? Food plots. Now, not everybody can do food plots. You have to have access to property because you can't put a food plot on state land. So you have to have access to some property. You have to have the resources, the tools to buy the seed and the equipment to put it in. So it's not for everybody. So I think it's somewhat discriminatory. But my son James rented a tractor this year. Last year we put him in, when I say we, it's James doing most of the work, Addison doing a lot of the work, and me sitting back providing moral support and doing a little bit of work. So we put in more food plots this year. We put in 6 food plots. The first one, no problems. We had tilled this up last year, so we knew all about it, good to go. The second one was a clearing that still had ferns about 3 feet high. Now, James had gone in there about a week before with some glyphosate, some Roundup, and sprayed everything off. And this particular food plot, for whatever reason, didn't die off. So we're looking at a clearing that is primarily ferns about 3 feet high. And Addison's on the tractor with the cultivator behind her, trying to chew this stuff up. James and I are walking the food plot looking for, stones or sticks or whatever to get out of the way. But we didn't canvass the entire food plot. And this is a mistake. I admit this. This is on our shoulders, my shoulders. Okay, I'll take this on my shoulders because I know better. I didn't walk the perimeter of the food plot to look for potential danger. James and I have our back to Addison. She's on the tractor, basically brush hogging or cultivating down these ferns and digging up the top couple of inches of soil. We hear her yell, turn around, and the tractor has rolled over. That is one of the most terrifying things I have ever gone through in my life, because in my mind, I'm flashing back to when I was a kid growing up on the farm and all the farming accidents we had with people rolling tractors over. I lost a classmate in high school by rolling a tractor over. So it was terrifying. We run over to the tractor. Addie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? And she's kind of in a little bit of shock, right? She's scared. So she doesn't say anything right away. Addie, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. James was able to reach in there, turn the tractor off, so the cultivator's not spinning in the background here. She gets out of the tractor. She gets off the tractor, I'm standing. She's standing, right? Obviously nothing's obviously broken. No blood. Turns out, because I'll take responsibility, because I know better, but I had a mental lapse. I didn't walk the perimeter of that food plot and check for holes. Addison, driving through 3-foot high ferns, drove that thing into a hole and rolled the tractor over. Now, God was watching out for us because Addison had put her seatbelt on. Now, I would never think of putting a seatbelt on while driving a tractor. Addison put her seatbelt on. So when the tractor rolled, the seatbelt held her in her seat and kept her from falling out or being thrown out and maybe ending up underneath that tractor. The other thing was, this rental tractor had a steel cage over it that prevented it from rolling all the way over. God was watching out for us. So I share that story as a lesson that we can't let our guard down. We can't, and I don't want to be safety Sam here, but when you're on the water or in the woods, and when you're hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, there is a tendency, because it is the activities. They are the activities that we enjoy so much, and we can take a big breath and relax and not have to worry about everything else. We still have to worry about doing things the right way. We ended up righting the tractor. We had to take a tow strap from my truck, wrap it around a tree, hook it to the tractor. We were able to right it to get it back up. The tractor was fine. Addie was fine. And we continued on with the day. And we got a lot of work done. But it was scary. I will admit, I was scared. I was scared there for a minute. I was scared because I didn't know what I was looking at. So let's learn from that. Let's all learn from it. And just take our time. Be a little extra careful. Speaking of situations in which we are in the outdoors and things went south, after the break, my buddy Lance Valentine is going to join us to talk about a situation he had on the Angler Quest on Saginaw Bay. Then Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News talking about their big outdoor weekend coming up. In hour number 2, Brian Mastenbrook of the DNR. The early season elk hunt is just around the corner. We'll talk about that and Michigan elk in general. Joe Robinson from the DNR on the early season waterfowl hunts. In our third hour, Matt Taggett of Rec Broadheads. If you want to get a discount on Rec, go to the website, recbroadheads.com. Use the promo code Avery15. And then Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner wraps it all up. That's all coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. Hey, Ross, how are you? I was just talking about the work that you put in. Elliot says, one of the best things they did with tractors were seat belts and the roll protection. That's exactly what happened. God was watching over us. Addison had her seatbelt on, and the tractor had a roll cage on it. Thank you, Dean. Hey, Ross, you really earned that critter. What did you say, 3 15-hour sits and a 13-hour sit? How do you like that lighting right there? It's like a horror story, horror movie. All right, my friends, I'm going to do the rest of the show. I'm going to stop this live feed. Apologize for just turning the light off early. And I will see you tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live.